Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to see you, friends, fellow Brits, fellow Zionists. And what a wonderful sight it always is to see the flag of the State of Israel flying so proudly here in the centre of London, as it should. We have every right to feel proud of that flag. You have every right to fly it here and to fly it proudly, because we know that the cause that we have is proud and a just cause. Almost everything I think that could be said has already been said by every other speaker, but I'm just going to add a couple of other thoughts, if I may. I was at the same lunch as Colonel Richard Kemp the other day, and by the way, Richard, in future, could you always get me to remember not to speak after you? It's a rule of public speaking, clearly. I was at the same lunch, and the Prime Minister, Theresa May, did indeed speak enormously warmly and with great friendliness about the State of Israel. She said all sorts of wonderful things about the state, about our economic mutual interests, our security mutual interests, and much more. She also mentioned during it, and rightly, that the Department for Overseas International Development is looking into the question of British taxpayer funding of terrorist salaries within the Palestinian Authority. And that is a very important thing to look into. I'm delighted that they are finally doing that. I'm sure everybody is. And then we learned, just a couple of weeks later, what the Prime Minister's civil servants were doing at the very time that the Prime Minister was telling us about the wonderful friendship between this country and the State of Israel. So I think we need to say something very clearly to the Prime Minister, which is this: friends do not kick their friends in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not a demonstration of friendship that you praise your friend one day and simultaneously delegitimize it behind their backs. It is not a demonstration of friendship, and we will not be satisfied by simply this country no longer paying salaries to Palestinian terrorists. That won't do. That's not where our bar is. We're not willing simply to be flattered by our taxpayer money not going to Palestinian terrorists and their families. That isn't what we think of as friendship. That is the bare minimum of a decent and tolerant society, and the way in which it spends its taxpayer money. That is the barest minimum. And we will not be satisfied by that. Friends, as I say, do not kick their friends in the back. Now, this country currently has, it seems to me, a very confused attitude towards the issue of the Middle East in general. For years, through most of my adult life, people used to say the Middle East problem, and you say, which one? And they'd say, oh, you know, the Israel-Palestinian dispute. Okay, that one. One of many, many things in the region. Now everybody can see there isn't a Middle East problem. There isn't the Middle East problem. The Middle East is covered with problems. The whole place, everywhere you look, is problems. And that the least of the problems in the region is the State of Israel. As Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a few years ago, Israel is not the problem of the Middle East. Israel is a solution to the Middle East. If the rest of the Middle East looked like Israel, there would be no Middle East problems, full stop. But it is still pretended that somehow we can recognize that the Israeli-Palestinian dispute cannot possibly be the central problem of the region, and yet this country endorses and pushes and writes resolutions like this despicable UN resolution we're here to object to today. That is an entirely contradictory policy. This country, furthermore, is meant to be committed to a two-state solution. A two-state solution of Israelis and Palestinians living side by side in peace. This country constantly says it's committed to that, and yet at the same time is saying this undermines that possibility by unilaterally deciding for itself what Israel should go into a final status negotiation with. Again, friends do not undermine their friends and arrange that when their friends go into a negotiation, which we all hope at some point will happen, that their friends go in weak. They wouldn't do that. Friends don't do that. Friends are meant to look out for each other, not to undermine and send their friends into negotiations in as weak a position as possible. So I believe that Theresa May is a friend of the Jewish state, a friend of the state of Israel. I don't think I or any sane, sentient person could say the same of the Foreign Office. But we can say that of the Prime Minister. So that is what I think our attention should be put towards. Demonstrate not what a poor and perfidious friend Britain is, but demonstrate what a great friend this country has been. Not just at times, it's sad we can't say more, to the Jewish state. Not just that, but to show what a friend you can be to any country in the world. The worst thing you can do for all your alliances worldwide is to look like you stab your friends in the back. This country spends on our military in order to show that we are a very bad enemy to have. But we should also demonstrate by our diplomacy and our politics what a good friend we can be. It's an enormous shame that this Prime Minister so early in her period in office has put doubt on that. It's a shame to us who are British, it's a shame to us who are British and Zionist that she has made that such a hard position that we find ourselves in, that a British government should be leading the way in delegitimizing a state we're so proud, should be so proud, to call our friend. So I'd just like to finish by saying thank you to the Zionist Federation for always walking the walk as well as talking the talk. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the weather for just about holding off. And I hope that it will not be necessary to come together like this again, because I hope this resolution doesn't have a future. I hope it doesn't have a future. And I hope that this is just one of those embarrassing and bad blots on Britain's diplomatic history, which will itself recede into history, and that we can meet again on a brighter day and in happier circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you.